So taking a look at work together 9-3. There's a lot of points in 9-3 because what we have to take a look at is we have our cash payments journal, which we used yesterday. The biggest part that we see in our cash payments journal, the biggest mistake I find is you write accounts payable Don's Quality Market instead of writing Don's Quality Market and putting it in the accounts payable column. Okay? So that's the biggest mistake. And the other thing that you're going to find is you have to calculate your purchases discount. Okay? Your purchases discount is when they would write 2/10N/30. Anyone want to explain to me what that means? Give it to me, Dale.
You have 2% off if you pay within 10 days, also have to pay $30.
Correct. You don't have to pay $30. You pay in 30 days.
30 days.
Okay, so that's a pretty close explanation. So 210 net 30 is how you would say that for answering that question. So 210 net 30, 2/10 N/30. 2% discount if you pay within 10 days. Otherwise, all of it or the net amount is due 30. So businesses are going to set up and have different discounts that they're going to agree to because it encourages you to pay early. Right? Then you get it for less money and the business gets its money earlier. So it just kind of helps everyone out. So you have to calculate your purchase discount, which means we're going to have cents. So when we go through and add up our totals, we have to watch to make sure you're including cents because up until this chapter, we've never had any transactions that have had cents. I don't know if you've ever realized that or not, but now we're adding that to the world. But what we're going to take a look at is what we have to do in 9-3 to total a cash payments journal and then have it start on the next page. So the same concept holds true. Your debits and credits have to equal. You can get your debits and credits to equal, but still have amounts in the wrong columns. So we're going to make sure that we talk about that as well. So our directions read, cash payments journal and petty cash report for Keller Lighting are given below. Your instructor will guide you through the following examples. The abbreviation for a check is C. Number 1, rule page 5 of the cash payments journal using March 27th of the current year. Okay, we can do that. So on the bottom of this page, we have to put the date of the 27th because that is the last transactions we have on there. And we're going to do on the bottom of the page, carried forward. At the top of the next page, we do brought forward. They already did the math for us. So wasn't that nice of them? Because there are lots of rows that are missing. So all we have to do is take this information from the bottom of page 5 of the journal and put it on the top of page 5. So on the top of page 6. Top of page 6, we're going to do March 27th. We're going to do brought forward. We have to put a check mark in the post reference of both of those. I forgot on the bottom of page 5. And I'm just going to carry the numbers forward. So whatever is at the bottom of the other page, I'm going to put the top here. I would take a moment to make sure that you entered it in correctly and didn't type the wrong number in because that can cause a problem. We good to go? We got our numbers there? So the next thing that we're going to do within this chapter is great. We totaled at the bottom of the page. We brought it to the top of the next page. That's nothing earth-shattering. We've done it before. Now we have to do petty cash. Now, we're doing petty cash a little bit different. We're going to be doing something called a petty cash report. So here's the thing. At the end of every month, they're going to go through and look to see how much they've spent in petty cash. In the past, everything has magically worked out. It's amazing. Okay, as we learn more and more into accounting, you're going to find out that it always doesn't work out. We don't always have customers that pay us. So what are we going to have to do with that? And we don't always have the numbers that work out exactly the way it should. So when we look at petty cash now, what they're going to do is they're going to tell us that we spent $30 in miscellaneous. And how would I know that? I would have a receipt. So anytime somebody uses petty cash, they're going to take some money and they're going to use and get a receipt, and they're going to give back the change and the receipt, and they're going to put that in the petty cash box. And there's somebody that's in charge of replenishing petty cash, and they go through and look at all of the receipts, and let's say, okay, $30 to miscellaneous, $45 for repairs expense, $15 for postage, and they'll go through and determine based on the receipts how much goes to each area. Then they also have to count the amount of cash that is in the box. So when they count the amount of cash in the box, this is ideally what should happen. The amount of the receipts added up plus the amount of cash in the box should equal the amount that we have in our account title petty cash. $200, $150, whatever it is. The amount will change for each business, but you will always be told what the value of petty cash should be. But here's something that would happen. Let's say that I got sent to Shopko to pick up some toilet paper for the bathroom of the business. So they hand me $10, I run to Shopko, I buy the toilet paper, I put the change in my pocket, the receipt in my pocket, and then I get back to work and I'm like, all right, I got the toilet paper for the bathroom. And then I go to the petty cash box and I put the change and the receipt in there, but I missed 20 cents got left in my pocket. You know what I mean? Sometimes they get stuck in the corner or whatever and you miss it. Or I had extra change in there ahead of time. I had 50 cents in there and didn't realize it, and I just emptied my whole entire pocket and I put 50 extra cents in there. Would both of that work? But is that something legitimately that could happen though? Or the cashier gave me the wrong change back. I gave them the right amount from my pocket, but the cashier gave me the wrong change. All of these things can happen. So we are going to have a new account that we have to use, and it's going to be called cash, short, and over. So it's going to fall under our expenses, but you don't always debit it, you don't always credit it. You're going to debit it if you're short money, meaning you should have had $75, but you only had $73, so you'd have been short $2. If you were over, meaning you got extra money in it, then you would be, if you're supposed to have $75 and you had 78, then you would have been over 3. So if you're short, you debit it. If you are over, you would credit it. A short is like an expense, because you kind of like lost money and you don't know where it is. And an over is like revenue. All of a sudden your business just has a little bit more. The account number is going to be a 6, so it's going to be classified as an expense account, but you will not always just debit it. So we have a petty cash report that we have to go through, and we're going to analyze what would the receipts be, and we have to go through and determine if we are short or over. Okay? So that's the other part of going through and looking at section 9-3. So when we look at our directions, it says Kevin Tomlinson is the custodian of a $200 petty cash account. On March 31st, he had the receipts for the following total payments: supplies office, supplies store, miscellaneous, and a cash account gives you the amount of cash. It says prepare the petty cash report. So we're going to do the date. The date is going to be March 31st of the current year. It's just starting at the top. And our custodian is Kevin Tomlinson. Now, I'm going to do the money portion of it. Right here, it doesn't line up exactly, so there's a little bit of line off, but it says fund total. So how much do we have in our petty cash account? 200. So I'm going to put right here under reconciliation 200 and hit enter, because it'll automatically put 0.00 in there, so I don't have to type in the cents. Now, we're going to look at our directions, and they told us that we have supplies office of $45.23. And if I hit enter, I have supplies store of $66.18 and miscellaneous of $49.25, all given to me right within the directions. You need to take out your handy dandy calculator and you need to add up these three amounts: $45.23, 66.18, 49.25. Okay? On your calculator, you're going to add up those three numbers, and you're going to enter it right here. And then I also want you to see, do you see how there's like little arrow thing right here? The amount that you put here, you're just going to also enter there. So you're just going to type that number in twice, and you'll see why. Again, we're just going to take 45.23 plus 66.18 plus 49.25. Seth, what did you get?
160.68.
Thank you. And again, I'm just going to write the same number twice, and you'll see why in a little bit. Okay, so according to the total of all my receipts, we spent $160.68 of petty cash. 66? 66. Thank you. $160.66. Now, right here, recorded amount on hand. Notice it says fund totals. We have our payments, and it says less. I have to subtract 200 from 160.66. And that is, mathematically, that will give me 39.34. So in a perfect world, we should have $39.34 left in the box. But I hate to spoil this. We're not in a perfect world. Mistakes happen. Things come up. So we have to figure out exactly how much we're off. The next line there says less actual amount on hand. And that is given to you in the directions. So how much cash do we actually have? Do you find it in there, Dale? 40.59. So I'm going to type 40.59 right here. Now, I need you to look here and see this. Do you see how the word over is in parentheses? Okay, mathematically, if we have an over, we need to type that amount there in parentheses. Okay? Now, are we short or are we over? Over. We said we should have $39.34, but we actually have $40.59. How much are we over? $1.25? Okay, so down here in parentheses, I'm going to do 125. Again, I'm putting it in parentheses because it's an over, and an over is in parentheses there. And what do parentheses mean mathematically? A negative or a minus that we'd have to subtract. Okay? Do you see this little arrow that comes over here? I need to type that number there as well, in parentheses. Now, if I look here, I have a 160.66. What am I going to do with this 125? Am I going to add or subtract? Subtract, because it is a negative. If it was a positive number, I would add. So I'm going to go through and subtract these two. And that's going to be the amount of petty cash that I have to write a check for. So I'm going to need to get a cash in the amount of $159.41. Right? Did I do the math right that time? I'm not doing well on math. That's good? Following that, Clayton? Now, what would have happened if I would have wrote a check out for $160.66? I would have been over $1.25. So when the new month started, the actual amount of cash in my box would have had more than $200. And you're like, whatever, Mrs. Grasso, it's only $1.25. But if it happens all the time, short or over, you're not able to closely track your money. And businesses want to know where their money's going. That's why we're studying accounting. They have to understand what's happening. It also may be, if we closely watch it, we've had people that have been busted for taking money out of petty cash. Have you ever heard reports of people that got in trouble because they've been managing funds for an organization or a group and they've embezzled money? Okay? We've had that's happened, like organizations, church groups, different people, because there wasn't somebody else checking on the funds and they actually embezzled money. We had it happen in the city of Seymour. Do you remember that? That was probably like 7 years ago. What happened is there was an employee working in the city of Seymour, and they had a fictitious employee that they paid money to, and that money went into that person's payroll. It took a couple years, but the auditors finally caught it, and that person went to jail. And the only reason you can do that is because we follow proper accounting procedures and practices, so you can go through and track what's happening for all of your information. So, we filled out our petty cash report. Now we need to journalize it. So, when we journalize petty cash, do we use the account title petty cash? No. We only are going to write the accounts that are affected, which would be supplies office, supplies store, miscellaneous, and now we have to add cash short and order. And we're going to write them in the order that they're on our petty cash slip. So we're going to put it on the date of the 31st. I know that because that's the date of my report. And I'm going to put my first line, supplies, office. Source document is going to be 536. And then we're going to put in 4523 in general debit, and I'm going to put in cash on the very first line of 159.41. I got that number from here. This is the amount of cash that I had to write a check out for to replenish petty cash. So general debit, I have 45.23. In cash credit, I have 159.41. My debits and credits do not equal because I need to add the rest of my lines. So now I'm going to do supplies store 6618. Thank you. Miscellaneous expense 49.25. Cash short and over, debit or credit? It will be a credit. It's going to go credit for $1.25. Because it's in a parenthesis, meaning it's taking away, that over is also going to be a revenue account. Are debits and credits equal for this transaction now? Yes, I have 3 debits and I have 2 credits, and if you add them up, they do equal 160.66. Right? Oh, look at, we're at the bottom of a journal page. Guess what we get to do? Total, enroll, improve. Oh my goodness, it's so exciting. On the very bottom of a cash payments journal, we always total at the last day of the month. There are 31 days in the month of March, so I'm going to put the day of the 31st. Account title, I'm going to put in totals, because there are more than one number. And then you get to take out your handy dandy little calculator and do some math. So I'll go ahead and take care of that right now. Once you have your numbers on the bottom of that cash payments journal, you can go ahead and scroll down and then use those numbers right here to go through and prove your general debit. And then your debits and credits, I should say, not general debit. So there should not be a number in every column. You're just going to go through and put your debits and credits in there and make sure that your debits and credits equal. Again, I just got them from here, moving left to right, putting them down on the bottom. I was able to get my work together to come out. When you get done with your work together, you can do your on your own. I will leave mine up. Don't forget, this is a graded assignment. I'll be walking around. Ask me questions if you need to. Please do not forget to read section 9-3 for tomorrow. You can also start your outline for chapter 9. That is also a good idea while you're reading to fill that in.